Tonight, school's out for summer, but could it be forever?
I would be heartbroken.
Why this rural Montana school says it has no choice but to close its doors. And preserving these pieces of Montana's history.
All the people that ever got to walk in that schoolhouse, I want them to get to live on.
We take you behind the scenes to show you the work being done to rehab and repurpose one-room schoolhouses all across Montana.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 6.
Good evening. Welcome to the News at 6. I'm Marian Davidson, coming to you from the Baxendale Schoolhouse. Thanks so much for joining us. This school closed its doors to students in 1942, and today it has a whole new life. We'll tell you about that in just a bit. But first, we're going to start with a different rural Montana school facing a different, uncertain future. MTN's Allie Kaiser takes us to Basin.
Nestled between Helena and Butte sits the tight-knit community of Basin. With a population of over 350, the town has one church, one bar and cafe, and one school.
I felt very blessed growing up, and even more as an adult, that I got to go to Basin School, and I really want that for my kids.
But the school's future is in limbo. The school board has placed Basin Elementary in a non-operational status. The lone teacher resigned, and with no teacher, no students are enrolled for the 2025 to 2026 school year, down from 8 students last October.
I know there's a few parents that just felt that they could get a better education elsewhere.
Cody Tinker says the reasons behind the declining enrollment are complicated. She has 3 elementary-aged kids, but none of them go to school here.
It's been hard. We live right next to the school, so for us not to be sending our kids to school, I think says something.
Tinker says one other reason some parents don't send their kids to Basin is due to a lack of staff. 2 paraeducators left the school in January after an incident with a student where they claimed they felt unsafe. Their departure left the school with just 1 lone educator.
This place used to have longevity in their teachers.
That, coupled with a lack of enrollment, forced the school board to make a difficult decision.
It's kind of a no-brainer. We don't want to be in this position.
Scott Brock is one of the 3 Basin School Board members. He took me on a tour.
Oh, it is unlocked.
Of the roughly 130-year-old school.
I believe it's part of the identity of Basin.
Brock says the non-operational status means the district has 3 years to get the school back up and running.
It's an uphill battle, but I think it's one that we can win.
So what exactly would it take to get the school back up and running again? Well, according to Brock, he believes that all it would take is 2 students and a qualified teacher. The board meeting is scheduled for Thursday at 5:30 p.m. to discuss the school's future. In Basin, I'm Allie Kaiser, MTN News.
Bells in steeples like this welcomed generations of kids across Montana to school, and some still do today. Fun fact, Montana is home to 50 one-room schoolhouses and another 50 2- to 3-room schoolhouses. But schools like these are closing at an alarming rate. According to the Montana Office of Public Instruction, 8 rural schools have closed over the past years, and 15 rural school districts in the state have spent at least some time in non-operational status, meaning they closed briefly before reopening again. As school buildings like this one age, upkeep can be, well, expensive. In places like Basin, people have blamed school closures on a new state law that took effect last year. But as MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Ambarian shows us, that's just one part of the story.
In 2023, the Montana legislature passed House Bill 203. It made it easier for parents to move students to a public school outside the district they live in. Supporters said it was a way to increase educational choice, but some opponents said it put Montana's smallest school districts at a big disadvantage.
Representative David Beatty, a Republican from Hamilton, sponsored HB 203. He says before it was up to each district whether to allow students in their area to transfer to other districts, and he wanted a more consistent statewide policy. The bill also required districts to pay tuition to the district where their residents are now attending school.
The taxpayers within the school district where a child resides has an obligation to pay for part of that education.
In 2024, the Melrose School District in Silver Bow County went into non-operational status. In an open letter, district leaders specifically pointed to HB 203, saying it had contributed to students moving to other neighboring districts. I asked Beatty about arguments like that.
At the end of the day, I reject the idea that because I have a small district, in order to preserve that district itself, I'm going to deny a parent the opportunity to send their child where that child can best be educated.
One thing that is clear, there's been a trend of small rural schools dealing with low enrollment even before the passage of HB 203. Since 2016, the Montana Office of Public Instruction reports 15 rural school districts across the state have spent time in non-operational status, and 8 have closed permanently. As we showed you last month, the most recent school district to close its doors for good was Gold Creek in Powell County. It first went non-operational back in 2022.
I think it takes away part of our identity as a community.
Beatty says he thinks this trend has more to do with changing population patterns and changes in education than with his bill.
Well, I think parents have different expectations of what they want their children to do now, too. And once again, I think we should honor parents' preferences on this.
During this year's legislative session, lawmakers passed another of Beatty's bills, this one reducing the tuition that districts have to pay when a student moves to another district. Beatty believes that will reduce some of the pressures that people are concerned about. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Only time will tell if the schools in Gold Creek and Basin will once again reopen. The Baxendale Schoolhouse closed to students in 1942. It sat empty for decades before it was moved from its location next to the Holter Sawmill. It made a couple of stops before it eventually landed here, west of Helena. But many of Montana's rural schoolhouses have not been so lucky. This is just a look at some of the more than 2,000 one-room schoolhouses that once dotted Montana's landscape. When the schools closed, most of those buildings slowly began to deteriorate and wither away, and many are now beyond repair with major structural or foundational issues. Fortunately, there's now a massive effort underway to restore old schoolhouses like the Baxendale Schoolhouse here and repurpose them. And this is actually a model that's being replicated across the state. We'll tell you more about that in a bit, but first, let's send it back into the studio for the news of the day and a first look at our weather with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grabanetz.